Okay, I'm going to start the call out tonight because, well, I can. I'm just going to say, here's what's interesting. This month with this super patch thing has been interesting. I wanted to tell you guys, number one, we did not go looking for super patch. It kind of found us. And then it sat around for a long time. And what's been interesting, it's been our clients who have been driving it into us. In other words, we found it, we had some fun, but it was not what Cheryl wanted. It was not what she was looking for. And then as we just, she always plays with things, she experiments with them, she does different things. And I think it's exemplified by this. I got a text today from a lady who was referred to us by her physical therapist. And she said, my PT, who we know well, gave me your name and number. She had tried Freedom and Liberty patches on me. Now, if you're at a PT, that's because you're having trouble moving, right? You don't go to a PT if your body's working well. Liberty patches on me, and I've had a noticeable difference in my balance even on my second day. Can I come purchase some? After improvement, I hate to not have some to continue with tomorrow. She just called me again. She's coming down at 6:30 tonight. And we're going on vacation in 2 weeks, and I cannot go on my vacation without these. Now, in the 38 years we've been doing this, nobody's called up and said, hey, can we come get amber toast? Hey, can we come get a shake? Hey, I need a parasite cleanse because we're going on the road. By the way, I need a parasite cleanse tomorrow night. Can I come get my parasite cleanse in 30 minutes? I mean, it's been an interesting journey of what's been happening with this. And then, so that's me. I'm just excited because, like, I'm going to close the sale tonight. So that's my fun part. But Cheryl has been doing all the research and digging in and going way beyond that. But I will say this is turning out to be a really interesting journey. So we've got stories and topics tonight. But let me just deal with the one thing. Some of you got emails from the company on price increases coming. You need to just stay calm and not worry about that. I was talking with some folks today, and whoever sent that email out really botched it, okay? I mean, I've been like 4 phone calls trying to figure out what it is, and everybody in the field is concerned about how it got written, how it got sent out. So, as members, you will have no price increase until January. There will be a price increase. Nobody can figure out exactly what's happening next week. I think it's just on the Lumi product, but here's the deal. Just stay calm and it's all going to work out. And don't freak out because somebody without much forethought sent out an email to everybody. So it's going to be okay. And I have a plan. My job is now, and I will say yesterday morning, Cheryl and I got into a bit of a, what do we want to call that?
A discussion.
A discussion over my response to a problem and her response to a problem. Cheryl responds to problems like, here's what we're doing, here's where we're going. And I usually respond to problems with, I'm quitting. So that's where we started out at breakfast this morning, or yesterday morning.
Yesterday.
Yesterday was, yeah, maybe we're a peace patch. Yeah. I didn't put on a peace patch because I was mad and I didn't want to solve that problem. I wanted to stay stuck. And it just made me feel good for about an hour. So we have those challenges here in our marriage.
Not
But
very often anymore.
no, but I just want you to say, just ignore that and call me and we'll get this pricing thing worked out. It will go up in January, but I have a plan and we'll make it work. Okay. So that takes care of that. Cheryl.
I just assumed the person didn't have their focus patch on and unfortunately made a mistake. And the key is you stay calm on these things and they have a way of working out. So if you've got notes, these are all in the notes. I want to quickly go through a few things because every week I'm learning. Every week I think, what will I talk about next week? And then so much happens that I actually have to edit all that I'd like to share. But the first thing that I learned, again, from Dr. Anna, who's going and speaking at a world conference on gut biome. She's just such a valuable resource for me as a
The
practitioner.
two of you are like what I call two pods and a pea. Wait,
Two peas in a
two
pod.
peas in a pod. Okay.
Okay. So one of the things she said is, in the testing with the EEG brain test, dysfunctional pathway, put on a patch, you go to balance, take the patch off, you go back to here. She said, now it's important you realize just because the brain pathway has gone into balance, it doesn't mean all of the body functions have gone into balance at the same time. That actually made sense to me. It's like, well, of course, that takes time to ripple out. Like I'm wearing the Lumi patch skin, and after a month, I'm seeing quite a few things, but I didn't see them the first week because it actually takes time for that to ripple out and manifest in the body. But the brain pathway itself instantly goes into balance if two things. One, if it was out of balance, and if you have the patch that's going after that pathway that's out of balance. I just wanted you to know that. Now, for
That
those,
balance process in the body is sometimes a rapid process, sometimes a slow.
it
That's
depends on
progress.
each one.
You're learning that as we're going.
So, for those of you who heard all about Tylenol and some of the goofy things some women are doing who are pregnant and taking a whole bunch of Tylenol just to prove it doesn't work and now are in the hospital. I mean, for years, I knew way back with Dr. Loomis 25 years ago that overdosing on Tylenol, Advil destroys the liver, destroys glutathione, destroys your detox. It's been known for ages. But in your notes, there's a list of all the over-the-counter and prescription meds that have the same ingredient that causes Tylenol to be a problem.
Well, you want to try to say that name,
Acetaminophen. Acetaminophen. So in the
Did you
notes,
do okay, Dorothea?
okay. And obviously, Dorothea, you're going to know all this, but the over-the-counter Excedrin, NyQuil, I didn't know about NyQuil, DayQuil, Advil, Alka-Seltzer, I didn't know that one either, Midol, Aspirin-free Excedrin, Bayer, Back and Body, Aleve-D, Tylenol, Zyrtec-D, Sudafed, didn't know that one, Robitussin, cough and chest, Congestions, DM, and Benadryl Allergy Plus, Claritin D. Prescription drugs include Percocet, I'll probably say some of these wrong, Fioricet, Vicodin,
Fortunately, we're
Lortab, Norco, Roxacet, Cosette, Lorcet, Percodan, Tylenol with codeine or Tramadol, phenanyl combination products. So, for you, your family, or people you care about, let them know there's a bigger list than just Tylenol. The obvious ones are Tylenol and Advil, but all of these, Dr. Sherri Tenpenny, who spoke at our clinic years ago, I mean, we've known this for a long time. We've taught it for a long time. It's just coming to the forefront. Tylenol has been known to negatively impact the liver, deplete glutathione, disrupt detox, and magnify vaccine injury risk. It's been known for a long time. That used to be considered a conspiracy theory. It's now being known as truth. So, for those of you who are in our EASY program or our training, when we talk about the Foundation 4 products, which I don't have in here, but it's having a binder, biotoxin binder to get rid of these toxins. Number 2, it's the Primaskin to get glutathione through the skin into the brain. Very, very important. And then throughout the body, vitamin D, and then your minerals. All those are super important and they help mitigate what some of these things are doing. But the good news is there's an alternative to Tylenol, and the reason people take it or they're prescribed to take it is because they're in pain. And in just a minute, we'll have Mark share his story. But in the past, what I basically had as a naturopath was proteolytic enzymes. All the way back 35 years ago with Loomis, it was trauma because it had very high levels of protease. Protease goes and eats inflammation that impacts pain. And then later with OHS, it was acute. Both of those work, but you can't do it if you have stomach issues, if you have heartburn, GERD, or anything where the stomach lining has been compromised, because you'll have a reaction
to the enzyme,
to that much protease. Because when you have those kinds of stomach issues, you have to do enzymes that don't have protease, so you can't do proteolytic enzymes because it'll hurt and it'll cause a lot of pain. Plus, you have to do a lot of pills and it takes some time. So the good news is the Freedom Patch for pain is just phenomenal. So even though we're going to do most of our stories later on, Mark, why don't you share yours? Because
it's been evolving. He shared it with us, but
but
every week it gets better.
So why don't you share that with us, Mark? If you'll unmute yourself so we can hear
Hold on
you.
just a sec, Lene, pin him so we can get the full screen there, and then we'll have this recording when we need it. Hold on just a sec, Mark. Okay, you're on.
Okay, when I started my physical therapy, I forget, not that long ago, with my back, I was supposed to stand up, walk 6 feet, turn around, come back to my chair and sit down. It took me about 27 seconds, they said, to do that. Now on the patch, today I stood up, I walked, I came back, sat down, 8 seconds. That was it. No pain. I also was supposed to stand up and sit down. That's it. Stand up, sit down 5 times. Took me 37 seconds. I almost didn't finish the 5th one. I was pushing myself up out of the chair and kind of easing myself back down into the chair. 37 seconds. Today I did all 5 times, 7 seconds, didn't even have to touch the arm of my chair. Just boom, 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 boom,
And you're
boom.
off pain meds.
And I am completely off of the tramadol, which I was taking for pain.
And how, okay, just from a pain standpoint, now, how old are you and how long have you been in pain and how bad was it on a scale of 1 to 10?
Well, I'll be 70 in a month, and I've been in pain since 22. And on a scale to 1 to 10, it was probably, like Cheryl said in the past, a 12.
And nothing's really touched that for the last
Nothing
5
has touched it. I mean, they tried different pain meds. Nothing has been working.
And you've been doing physical therapy and you've been trying lots of things.
Well, to start with, I couldn't even do the physical therapy. Got on the patches, I could at least do the physical therapy. Now, maybe some of this change has been because I've been able to do the exercises. My back muscles are getting stronger. You know, I'll say some of my better reaction time could be because my muscles are getting stronger, but none of that would be happening without the patch. And it's
And you did do 2 patches, right, to get the
when I
pain?
started. Yeah, it took 2 patches for
And
a
then
couple
when
days.
did you go to 1 patch?
After 2 days.
And then, Anna, why don't you scoot forward and just, because you guys are like the walking wounded. So tell us what's been going on with you.
Well, I tried Focus first and I was able to sew again. And this week with just Peace and Lumi, I was able to get out a machine that I've had for a year and a half, set it up, sew on it. You know, learning a new machine is not just, you know, a piece of cake for some people. It just took me a long time to be peaceful enough to do it.
And why were you not able to sew?
Distraction, ADD, couldn't fit it in, couldn't figure the time, couldn't compartmentalize other things so that I knew I had time to sew.
Wow. And Lene put a question. I just want to clarify. Mark, since he said he had pain since 22, it was 1922, not since he was 22 years old, right, Mark?
Since 2022, yes.
2022, not since age 22.
Past 3 years.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay. Back to you, Cheryl.
Okay, so the Freedom Patch is just, it's pretty fast and there's no chemicals, there's no contraindications. And the fact that when you reduce pain, remember, all pain, chronic or acute, is run by the brain. So if you go in and support the brain pathway, the pain messages change. And for him, it was 2. That's the only patch where 2 can be helpful. And then he was able to do the PT. And then after 2 days, he only needed 1. And then he could continue the PT. So thanks for sharing that,
So
Mark.
the important piece there is that the patch really opened the door for him to begin doing the things he needs to do to put himself back together. The patch didn't put him back together. It gave him the opportunity. And now he can begin doing the work, because when you've sat that long in pain, your body degenerates rapidly, especially in your 60s and 70s. Atrophies is a good word. And so being able to now put it back together is huge.
So the next patch I want to talk about, because I listened to a pretty long teaching from Dr. Anna, and boy, this one just, it almost left me speechless on the things that the Defend patch can do. Because I was thinking, you know, I know all the things we do for our immune system, and I know they work. They take a little bit of time, but they work. But what I want to talk to you about tonight is not only what Defend does, but what it does for the blood, especially if people have had a vaccine or they had COVID long haul and the blood is clumping together. So pay attention, because I'm going to give you the notes on it.
When you say clumping together, that's as seen under a dark field microscope. They can actually...
That's being seen under a microscope, and then Dr. Anna talks about it in response to blood clotting and blood clots. So this is in your notes. When you sit on an airplane for hours, you put yourself at risk for blood clots, especially if you have been vaccinated. Hypercoagulation state, post-COVID vaccination era, has left many with permanent clotting disorders. Airplane travel dangers. When you're trapped in a plane, you have an increased risk of blood clot, plus you're breathing every germ of every person on the plane every 6 seconds, let alone all the EMF. So planes are just not a healthy place to be. Immune system vulnerability, crowded spaces, recycled air, exposure to multiple pathogens. The double threat, especially on an airplane, blood flow issues and compromised immunity. In live blood cell analysis, they'll take a picture, or not a picture, they'll look at the blood and there'll be clumping of the blood cells. Put the patch on, immediately the blood cells shift. I mean, that's like astonishing.
Kind of, I think it was about a 20-minute lag. They did it and then pulled the blood and gave it like 20 minutes. So
Okay, so 15 to 20 minutes, but I just listened to that, even if it was an hour. Is that kind of significant, Dorothea, as a nurse? Yeah, that's huge. So anyway, global statistics are climbing at an alarming rate. Sluggish, sticky blood that clumps together is happening more and more often, especially due to spike proteins, because the spike proteins from the vaccine impacts one of two different areas, and some people both. One, it impacts the quality of the blood, the heart, and circulation, and or it can impact breathing, lungs, and respiratory. That's why with Cellcore, we have the spike kit, which works on heart, lungs, the binder to get rid of the toxins and to help things move out with drainage activator. That's great. That's also a lot of pills, and it's also a lot of money. I still think they're great products, and if somebody had those issues, you might look at least at a binder joining Defend. So the times that Defend are extraordinarily helpful. It's not one that you necessarily need to do all the time. Just think about these situations. When you're going to be around a lot of people in crowds, maybe at churches, maybe at events, when you've been around somebody that's sick, if you're going to go to a hospital, that's like the sickest people. No offense, Dorothea, but if you're going to be traveling, airports, planes, hotels, event centers, children in school. I mean, we all know that kids go to school, come home sick, whether it's in preschool or in school. And when you're in high stress, because the more stress you're under, the more the immune system takes the hit. So the next set of notes are just tip of the iceberg of what Dr. Anna shared. The Defend patch brings blood flow optimization, putting the blood in as healthy a state as possible. It normalizes brain pathway controlling circulation. So I actually have a couple of people that no matter what we have done, their nitric oxide is low, which means oxygen doesn't get to the brain. BFF hasn't helped. OptiNitric, the BEAT products, none of those have helped. So I have some people who are experimenting with Defend to see if we can get nitric oxide levels high, because between poor circulation, blood clotting, and low nitric oxide, your risk of a heart attack or stroke, regardless of age, is really high. The Defend helps to reduce sticky, sluggish blood without a blood thinner.
Okay,
That's
this
pretty
kind of
important.
this won't be contraindicated with any drugs, so were they worried about
No,
that?
because no patch has an ingredient that's a contraindication to any drug. There's no contraindication with pregnant women. And when a website can say it's not a problem for a pregnant woman, that's kind of like gold. Because most websites will say do not take of pregnant just for legal reasons, but there is nothing in a patch that can impact a pregnant woman or the baby.
Okay. I heard this comment from the founder, Jay. He said, my single largest business expense is my lawyers. So when something goes up on the website, his lawyers have double dog checked it to make sure, because one of the big challenges when you have a product like this is getting in trouble with the government for claims. So we have to, one, be very careful about claims, but we know that the company encourages us to pull off of their website because they have, in fact, something showed up on Instagram the other day and we snagged it quick. It was a great picture. It was gone in 5 minutes. I called, so what happened to that great picture? They said, yeah, I didn't get through compliance. So they are very careful about the legal side of all of this, which is encouraging to me in terms of long-term availability of these products.
So when I share something with you like this, it's come from either Dr. Anna, who sits on the medical board along with some other doctors, or it's come from the Super Patch website. So I'm totally free to say it and totally comfortable. So the same pathway that runs circulation with Defend, also it's controlling immune response. It helps prevent a hyper-inflammatory response, and it optimizes immune function during high exposure situations. So I think that's pretty significant going into the fall season when people seem to think that's a time that they might get sick. It gives you something to take, but to put on and use. And just remember, that may not be the one you use every day. That may be in your medicine cabinet. That's kind of how I think of it. But certainly as I travel, I will take it. And Dr. Anna said she refuses to let anybody in her family travel without the Defend patch, especially her parents. She's 57, so her parents are probably not much older than us. And she said that's just really important because as people get older and they travel,
That means she thinks we're older too. Now I have started an experiment. Since I got a bunch of these in the office, I'm putting the Defend patch on myself. I'm going to wear it every day for a month, just because I want to see if it's helping with my gut issues, my asthma, my breathing,
digestion.
see where it goes with digestion. So we're just going to slap that on every day for the next 30 days and see what we notice, because that's how we learn, right?
So before we jump into stories, anybody have questions or comments on
Anything.
what I've shared on pain, on circulation, blood? Any questions or comments or thoughts?
I've got a question. I had a friend ask me about children and with the Defend. And so you wouldn't want to cut the patch smaller, but could you put it on their back or would it be too much for them?
The youngest child I've worked with is 3 years old and with a lot of skin issues. And the mother did Defend for like 3 or 4 days and Lumi for the skin for maybe less than a week. It cleared up everything that she and I had tried for 3 months to get addressed, cleared up in less than a week. She still has a little bit behind her knees, which is a big lymph point. So we're trying to get that to go away. But so that was 3 years old. And what the mom did is when she was doing the nighttime story and rubbing her back, she just put the patch on her back so she wasn't paying attention and it didn't bother her and she didn't try to take it off. I've had one mom who has an extraordinarily hyper child, one of them, very hyper. And every patch she put on, they would take off. I've only had one person, but that's more of the child. All the others, they don't complain. Now I've had people say, well, what about my dog? And it's like, probably not because it needs to adhere to skin. So to put it like a piece patch for anxiety on a dog, you'd have to shave it. So I'm not recommending that. It probably wouldn't hurt, but it's not going to work on top of their fur or their hair.
So the other side note that I'm actually excited about over the next 3 months, again, I told you there's a price increase coming in January, but the new patches will be 40% smaller than the current ones. They will be waterproof. They will be breathable, and they will have a new adhesive in them because we've had a few people have troubles with the adhesion. But the new adhesive is actually the same material they use internally in the body when they're doing surgery. So we're going to have better sticky stuff, breathable patches, and waterproof.
An inch and a half by inch and a half.
An inch and a half instead of 2 inches. So it'll be a really nice improvement to the product around January timeframe. Okay.
Any other questions or comments or thoughts?
We'll pause while you think about what you want to say. Christina.
So for like skin issues and patches, is this something you would have to like keep on wearing, or is it pretty much once it's cleared up, you're good to go without the patch?
Great question. And I don't know. Everybody's different. So I've been using the Primaskin spray. That made a huge difference in my skin on my face and with my brain, but it wasn't working on age spots, and those have gotten significantly better. Now, I don't know and let me back up. Since Lumi works on mitochondria energy, that's like a big deal. It works on all kinds of detox aspects of the skin pathway. And I'm seeing improvement with the crepey skin, like crepey skin here, inner thigh. I'm seeing that change after a month. I don't know if I stopped using it, if that would all come back. I don't know because right now I'm not ready
We're not
to.
interested in finding out.
I'm not ready to do that because I'd like to see how far that could go. What I know with some of the patches like Freedom, if somebody's got pain and they quit using it, they usually notice an increase in pain unless they've done enough in their lifestyle to get to the root of the issue that caused the problem to begin with. Because a patch puts the brain pathway in balance, which is great. To me, that means let's go to work and do the things that will support all of that. Not everybody wants to do that. That's fine. And so I can't tell you if my thought is that over a period of time, if you're doing other lifestyle adjustments, my thought is that over time, that pathway can move into more and more balance so that maybe every other day, I don't know, we're still learning.
But the little girl you worked with, she's stopped wearing a patch right now.
Yeah, and children respond so much more quickly. That's why I'm fascinated in working with children, because this little girl, the skin issues started in March, and we've been doing everything we could. And in about a week, they were taken care of, and she's not wearing the patches right now, and she's doing fine. Adults tend to have had the issue longer. It's more chronic for lots of reasons. So I can't answer that definitively, Christina, but part of the reason I ask you guys to give me feedback, like what did you do, how long, what did you notice? Because what I'm really, really good at is synthesizing a whole lot of data and finding patterns. That's what I'm good at. So that's where your feedback would help. So I don't know if that helped, Christina, because you disappeared on me, but hopefully it helped a little bit. Anybody else have a question or comment? Dorothea.
On the defend, you said, it, from what I understand, it kind of helps with improving the oxygenation to the brain. Did I get that correct? How about people with maybe like vascular dementia? I'm not talking about Alzheimer, but vascular because the heart's not pumping enough, so they don't get enough oxygen.
So one of the things I'm always very, very careful is we don't treat disease. You look at the symptoms. So vascular, that's vessel, that's an oxygen. First of all, I would always test for nitric oxide because that's just so easy. And when your nitric oxide is off, the quality of your vessels are off. So nitric oxide is just an easy thing to address. But then if you look at being able to support blood flow throughout the body to the brain, that can impact a whole lot of symptoms. So because you know so much as a nurse, the more you can take a disease label and look at what's the symptoms that go with that. And anytime you're dealing with something in the brain that's under the umbrella of dementia, you know that there's toxins in the brain, you know that there's a blood flow issue, and you know that there's an oxygen issue. So what we're talking about are things that can impact all of that.
So to that end, the company is very careful about the names and the information they put on the packs because that's all you can talk about. So you can talk to us about the disease, but then you look at these and go, what are they designed to do? And we can say, well, let's just see what happens. The other one that does help with blood flow is Rocket. Now it's a male health product, but we've got a couple of people experimenting with that with, we'll say down here, neuropathy and prostate issues. And yeah, so we'll see where that goes, but it's a blood flow product. So, you buy a pack and you try it for 30 days and see what you notice.
So since something like Rocket impacts blood flow and it also impacts nighttime urination, those are symptoms. So it's totally legal to talk about the symptoms. And if somebody has those, then they try it, see what they find, and hopefully those are people who will give us feedback so we can identify what those patterns are.
What's the Facebook group that Elaine has?
Okay, a couple of things to help you. I don't think I mentioned it, but we've put together, Forrest did, a playlist of all of like Dr. Anna, other
Yours.
doctors, my videos under CherylTownsley.info.
It's just a direct link to the playlist on our YouTube channel. It's nothing special. Just you don't have to go to the YouTube channel and poke around. It just takes you right to that playlist. So that makes that easier for you.
There's currently 28 videos on there. There's more coming because I'm just learning things rapidly and it just takes Forrest time to finish up the editing. So that's out there. And then on Facebook, there is Patch and Go.
The Patch and Go.
There's a Patch and Go private group. It might be called Super Patch.
No, look.
I think it's
So-
Patch and
So
Go.
my sponsor, Lane, has created a Facebook group. I'll get the name here for you. A Facebook group. Just request to join it. It's a private group. That way they can talk more freely in it. And they use that for people to tell stories, ask questions. Cheryl goes there every day and she comes back and learns something. She says, guess what I learned today in the Facebook group?
It's a place where you can go and Teresa Smallwood has used it, where you can say, what could I use if somebody has these symptoms? Or if somebody's
Yeah.
using this patch, what else have you noticed besides? Like if someone's using the focus patch, what else have they noticed? What are their benefits? So it's just a way of learning.
It's Patch and Go. They've got 5,000 people in it currently. So it's a place where you can have safe conversations about this. They do monitor to make sure it's compliant, but it's just a good place for stories. And then you take the stories and we have the stories because you can share stories and it gives you ideas to work with on your own stuff. Like Dorothea's asked a question about something that we could turn into a story. Okay. So Patch and Go, and then you'll have to get added into it. And so you just request to join and then
Forrest,
Elaine adds you.
spell that. Is it patch and then the letter N or A-N-D?
AND, Patch and Go.
All spelled out. All spelled
And
out.
there's nothing else to it because when I look for that, I don't get anything that has 5,000 followers.
4,900.
It's patch space and space go.
Got this clever. Oh, hold on.
Yeah,
That's
no,
42
it's
on
not.
this.
I'll have to keep looking.
Lene will find it. She is brilliant.
Also, Teresa asked if a person hurts all over, like where do you put the two pain patches if you have just pain everywhere?
Because typically for freedom, you put it above the pain point and below the brain. So if it's all over, I would put it like right where I currently have one.
Right below the neck, right at the top of the T thing.
Because often after client days, which for me was Tuesday, well, this wasn't Tuesday, it was something else, a big video day. No, it was our discussion day. That's what it was.
No,
When we had our discussion,
bad
I
experience.
had a little bit of pain, so I just plopped it on and it could have gone off this morning and I just kept it on.
It's because you had a pain in the neck.
So if it's just all over, I would put it somewhere right there close to the brain.
Now, Jay, who made the patches, said, I've spent $25 million developing a patch that can go anywhere in the body. So don't lose a lot of sleep over where. I'll just say that we have people in our group putting them in different places. But the company answer is they're designed to go anywhere. Key is, and the new ones will stick better because we won't have, we'll have the waterproof issue. But the main thing is they need to go where they're not irritating you or bothering you, not on hair. And preferably, they say not on scar tissue, so you have better response. But there's a guy on Instagram that's got his whole body tattooed. He's a tattoo artist, and he's patched up all over his tattoos and says it keeps him going all day. Back to Ann's comment, I said, I need focus and I need energy when I'm, doing that close-up work. Yeah, Marla, I see you get excited about putting them on your tattoos. That's great. I don't think it worked. I think henna tattoos will be okay. But anyway, the fun part is it doesn't cost you a whole lot to figure this out and experiment with them. Okay, back to you, Cheryl. Did you find the group, Lene?
I did find the group. I had to go on Google and do a search instead of on Facebook and do a search, and then it showed up.
Okay.
I
So-
did
And then you
patch
put-
and go group and it came up because there were some other patch and goes.
Okay, I'll try that. And then do you put both patches for pain all over? Would you put both patches on your back there, or would you put the other one somewhere else?
It's one of those where you play. Like I was working with somebody the other day, and she had like 3 or 4 patches running up the inside of her leg between her ankle and her knee. She's black, so it was interesting. I didn't even notice it, and she's wearing shorts. If I had 4 patches running from my ankle to my knee and I was in shorts, it'd be very visible. So,
Not sexy would be the word.
so I probably wouldn't do that. So if someone's got a lot of pain, maybe they just do like here, because that's going to be close to the brain stem. But again, make sure there's no damaged nerves, no scar tissue. So like the lady with the stroke, the problem was here. When we put the patch here, it did nothing. When we put it here, it works. So just make sure that maybe they haven't had surgery there. They don't have major cuts.
So between the pain and the brain.
But if it's all over, they're asking where. I would do the upper body just because it's close to the brain.
And it's easier to get to. And then from my perspective, I always put them on my forum if I'm getting ready to do videos so people can see I'm wearing them. It's
The other
marketing
thing, is if you have one up here, you could also put one on the low back, because lumbar is a source of a lot of pain for lots of reasons because of the different organs it goes to. And
But remember, the patch is sending a signal to the brain, not the lumbar. Patch is not talking to the lumbar, it's talking to the brain so that the brain can deal with the lumbar. Cheryl was real cute when she was first playing with these and she had the dental issue. She's got the dental issue. I come into the living room and there's patches all over her face. She's just got these
I
patches.
just had one here.
No, I think you had one here. And and then she put curlers in.
No,
So she had the patches and the curlers.
I had one here because I couldn't get in for a week and it really hurt. And after it calmed down, I took it from here down to here. But I didn't care what it looked like because I don't deal with pain. I just don't have pain. That one
You
really
sent me
helped.
you didn't go shopping. I went to the shopping.
So anybody else have a question? Because we do have some more stories. Any other questions at all or comments?
Let me just add one piece to that. So what I need to do with all of you between now and the end of next month is get you when they do have the price increase, the customer price is going to be higher. So we just need to make sure everybody, from a price standpoint, your membership is $40 per year. That you don't have to, it's just a $40 membership. It renews for 25 the following year. So your best pricing will be S members. I disagree with the company on that. That's their deal. I don't know why they do it, but over the coming weeks, we should get any of you who are not, came in as customers. We just want to get y'all shifted into the member account. That will always give you whatever the best price is. Okay.
So we're
And if you're calling me and you don't get a call back for a day, that's just how it is right now. Sometimes it's a day or two. Magdalena knows that some of you have been very patient. So if I miss you for a day or so,
remind him.
just call back and we're doing our best to keep up with this. Plus the rest of the office, like I spent 4 hours today just shipping office products. So there's a lot going on here. There's 2 of us. So thank you for being patient with us when you have questions.
Okay, I'm going to share 2 quick stories, and then Ron, I'm going to ask you to share yours, if you don't mind. I had a person who was using the combination of Ignite, which is for burning calories, 25% burn at rest, so it's improving metabolism, and Defend, and she dropped just like 1/10 of a point less than 4 pounds in 5 days, she said, of inflammation, puffiness. It showed all the places where she tends to hurt. So she lost that puffiness. She had fewer allergy symptoms, and allergies are a big deal where she lives, and that had reduced. It was like 75-80%. And her addictive responses dropped 75%. She had used Kick It before, but these happened. She had set Kick It aside and did these 2. So sometimes different patches will do different things. That's why you learn to experiment and see what you notice. Practice your noticing. The next one was, I shared this a little bit on Easy last night, but this one was it was a client I was doing in the office with the body scan. And one of her complaints was, it wasn't acne that she had on her back. It was raised like red, not quite boils, but almost like it. And on the scan, it showed candida, carb cravings. And so I was thinking, well, maybe Lumi would help the skin issue, but it probably wouldn't help candida because that's not anything that Dr. Anna had shared. But with the body scan, I can bring up candida, and because I can test the patches because they're a frequency, I can test them on the scan. It took care of candida, it took care of the carb cravings and carb digestion without an enzyme. And that just was fascinating. And then I got to thinking, okay, one of the other things that the skin pathway addresses is mitochondria energy, because it's cell respiration to produce mitochondria energy so that cells can replace themselves, which is what allows skin to replace unhealthy skin with healthy skin. So I knew I could go test mitochondria, and that score was super low. And the Lumi patch brought that score to balance. I just sat there like, you're kidding me. She was kind of excited. So anyway, now what we're going to do is watch what happens as she's using that. So, Ron, let's go to your story.
Hold on, let's highlight Ron, and then we can get a better recording of that. So, okay. Okay, Ron, go.
You got it. Okay. Excuse me. I just got my patches, I think, on Tuesday, and I put on Peace and Kick It because I have a addiction to opening the cupboards and just getting something to eat every time I drive by. So the first thing I noticed the next day, I had the impulse, but I was able to walk by the cupboard and not get anything. I also wear a glucose monitor so I can graph what I'm actually seeing. So the day before, I have a lot of fluctuations on the graph. The next day, I had fluctuations, but none of them went outside of the green zone, where normally they'll go, when I eat, they'll go way over it. So I stopped them the next day.
Which was Wednesday.
Yeah.
Stopped it on Wednesday.
And my eating numbers went out of the green zone again. I put it on this morning, and it's starting to average out in the low 100s, which is super low for me because my average is like 160. So to see it go down in the close to 100 is just, to me, like they said, it looks like magic. I go, and that's with the Kick It. So I go, that to me wasn't the target for it, but the side effect was it dealt with my A1C.
Well, and also you were doing Peace, right?
Yes,
What did
yes,
Peace. So peace brings the sympathetic and parasympathetic into balance. And when those two are in balance, that impacts all your hormones.
Yep.
So a whole lot of things between the combination of the two were getting balanced, and you didn't have to use a ton of willpower to stay out of the cupboards.
Right. So I went back and I ordered 8 more different patches that I don't have. They should be here on Monday, and I can't wait to start playing with those.
So just make a note of what you're playing with and what you notice, because certain combinations for certain people just do some pretty amazing things.
And learning, like on my wife, I put Boost on her and it helped a bit, and then I forgot to take it off at nighttime. I go take them off at nighttime, the Boost.
Yeah, that's an important one to do. Okay, I had a client who is in a very, very toxic job, not seeing options, very frustrated by it. And her practitioner had her put on a peace patch, and I asked her, so what'd you notice? She said, I instantly felt calm. That's a fairly common response. Another one, I had someone try the REM. Is one of those people that said, I don't think it's working for me. It kind of agitates me. I was talking to her about it, and I said, most common is some sort of trauma or abuse at night. She started crying, so clearly that was an issue. I said, you can, clear it emotionally, or if that's not what you want to do right now, you could experiment with the peace patch with the REM and see what you noticed. And so earlier this week, she sent me a text and said, as soon as I added peace, REM worked and I could sleep through the night. What I didn't know, she said, I haven't slept through the night or well for decades. Decades. She's younger than us, of course. But she said this is a big deal because sleep is gold. Sleep is gold.
Add something. So we have had a few people where the patches trigger emotional issues. I was talking with a lady the other day, and she said, she's getting phenomenal results, particularly the pain patch. But she said the REM patch didn't do anything for me, but the peace patch was huge. I said, well, just to note what Cheryl's found when the REM patch, for example, doesn't work, so especially with women, it usually indicates there's been nighttime trauma. And she immediately said, "Oh, that's what it is." And I said, "No, I'm not doing that. I don't do trauma, but you might want to work with somebody." But it immediately confirmed with her that lack of that brought up that emotion from nighttime stuff. So she now needs to work with somebody like Glenda or whatever to work on that trauma. So when something's not working or gives you a reaction, then that's points you in the direction of an area that might need to be dug into a little bit more. Does that make sense?
So why don't you share Rick's story? Because that one was really fascinating.
Yeah. So Rick, so
I've
when
known him for years.
Rick I've known for a long time, and he's the one that introduced me to the patches. Rick is a rough and tumble guy. When he was a kid, he was thinking about becoming a street boxer. He's construction. He's a blue collar worker. He lives hard, drives hard, plays hard. He's a little younger than me. But when he went to look at the patches, they do the balance test, and you all should watch the balance test videos on the playlist because that balance test is the easiest. Okay, what Cheryl's doing here is not what you can easily do with your friends. This conversation is not easy, but you can put the Liberty patch on, do the balance test. So Rick went to the home office shortly after the company opened, and the owner, Jay, said, "Let me show you the Liberty patch." So we did the balance test, and Rick's a strong guy. And, he lifts up on the arm and basically knocks Rick off his feet with one finger lifting up on his
Jay
hand.
did that.
Hmm?
Jay did that.
Jay did that. So Rick's like, "Wait a second. How did you almost tip me over with just barely lifting up on my arm?" And Jay looked at his wife and said, "How many head traumas has your husband had?" And she said, "Well, let's look at all of his injuries, all of his falls, all of his 7 car accidents." She said he's had head injuries all of his life. And so then the conversation went to, "Well, how come I can't sleep at night because my legs are all cramped up and my toes are continually like this?" He said, "My toes and my legs cramped up. No matter how much magnesium I take, no matter how much what I take, everything is cramped up." Well, what Rick discovered in this process was when he put on the Liberty patch, everything relaxed. The head trauma, Cheryl had one, you all know what that's like, but the trauma had taken away his balance and his ability to function well. So everything in his body was tight. He'd go to bed tonight and everything's locked up. He said, "I could function during the day because I put on my work boots. And so my work boots held me up. But barefoot in bed, everything was just tighter than a whistle, tighter than a
Just tight.
tighter than a square knot pulled tight by Forrest. If any of you know what a square knot is. But the Liberty patch, he says, has been 24/7 for him, and that has calmed down the nervous system enough that he can actually balance and function. But more importantly for him, his feet are relaxing, his legs are relaxing, and the leg cramps have gone away. So nothing on the Liberty patch says it's going to solve your leg cramp problems, but it does go into the cerebellum, work with accuracy, balance, and coordination. And remember last night on the Easy Call, we talked about accuracy, balance, and coordination with the cerebellum. So think of the Liberty patch going in and impacting the cerebellum. Cerebellum starts feeling safer and the body begins to relax so that you can move and function more effectively. Does that make sense? Questions on that?
When I heard that story, it made me think of my dad who wore cowboy boots, narrow toes. And he ended up, when he finally fell and couldn't get up, that's when they put him in a nursing home. So clearly had this issue, but his toes were like this, hammer toes, all of them. So the medical response was to cut so the toes would go flat, and it just destroyed him. So in my 30s, I had that same thing. And it's like, I'm not doing what they did to my dad. So I worked with a reflexologist and it helped, but it took 6 months to begin to get my toes like this. But I now have great toes, and then I've done all the neuro. It just, I look back at that and go, boy, wouldn't that have been neat to have been able to help my dad, because he walked all of his life as a farmer.
He wasn't interested in help. So here's the key on that. I'll just put a side note in from all of our neuro work. You've got to take care of your feet. Your toes are required for balance. You amputate a toe, you begin to lose your balance. So taking care of your toes and your feet so we can maintain mobility, so we can enjoy life. And that's what the Liberty patch really is designed to do, is to give you back your mobility. It's changed Dorothea's life. She can now walk and begin doing things, putting strength back into her body. Mark, eventually you'll be ready for that. So that's somebody the other day said, "Where should I start?" I don't know her. I was on the phone. She said, "Well, I'm 65." And I said, how's your walking? She said, "It's becoming a challenge. Let's start with the Liberty patch and see how we do." And the Liberty patch is so easy because you can put it on In my world, do a gait assessment. In your world, do a balance test. That video just learned how to do that. And immediately people can see the difference. We see it here in the office because I'll put the Liberty patch on, have them walk down the hall, have them walk up and down the stairs. You know, when somebody goes from one step at a time to 2 steps instantly, like the first comment that the other Cheryl had was, make sure you don't run out of these because sometimes you run out of product and I can't afford for you to be out of them. And I said, well, maybe you should stockpile them. She's like, no, that's your job. I need to buy them when I can afford them. So, okay.
One other story to share. Forrest will finish it because he heard it firsthand. But he came, and this is someone that we've known for 10 years because she went through our inflammation program, lost an amazing amount of weight, looked great, had put some back. She was really frustrated because what she had done back then isn't working. But just know that if you did things 5 to 10 years ago that worked and it isn't working now, things changed 2020. Whether you had the vaccine or you're around people who've had the vaccine, what that did to our bodies as a naturopath, what I saw 2020 on, what I knew before was no longer enough to address the issues. So anyway, I didn't even know she was trying the patches, but obviously she heard something that we had said, and she'd been dealing with pain significantly for at least a year, doing many other different therapies. What did she say when she called you?
She said, she called and said, because I'd send her the sample pack. Should I make those little packs up and send them out live? You bought those little 7 packs like Glenda did. So I'd send her some. She called and said, I need more. She said, I have done everything, kind of like Mark, tried multiple different patches, multiple different drugs, multiple different everything. She said, I put the Freedom patch on and the pain was gone that day. My knees are now back to functioning. I need to share these with my friends. And I was like, well, that's kind of a cool story. I said, and like I just go, okay, remember what I said at the beginning of the call? Patches found us, and then y'all found us, and now we're going down this path. And then Cheryl found Dr. Anna. And as I told a friend today, I said, Cheryl's brain has all this stuff in it. She takes in massive amounts of information. And the way it works is then she puts it together. It's called synthesis. She reorganizes and processes and packages information. And it's like with this patch stuff, all of her neuro training, all of that. And then she got a few keywords from Anna. And all of a sudden, it's like you have a crossword, a jigsaw puzzle. And it's like we put one little piece in it and she made a whole new picture out of it. So it's been exciting to watch her put together a whole new jigsaw puzzle for helping people, if you will. So we're excited to see where this goes. And we've got 5 minutes left in case.
I have one more thing I want to share. It's on the second page at the bottom. If there's 2 concepts I can give you that you, and think on it until you get an epiphany. Number 1 is the brain runs everything in your body. It's a control center for everything, physical, neurological, hormonal, emotions. It runs everything. Pain, everything. It runs everything. We learned that 8-10 years ago in neurology, and that change, it revolutionized how I worked with clients. So that's number 1. And even though I just casually say it, until you really get that this runs everything, and this is influenced by your experiences, your past experiences, how you've interpreted them, how you've stored them. Number 2, the patches are designed to work on different brain pathways, getting a signal through the nervous system up to the brain to put it in homeostasis immediately. And so in your notes, I listed the common pathways that each of the patches were designed to bring into homeostasis. Although sometimes, like what Ron shared, what you would think would do it, it ends up being something else. But at least if you have an idea of the kinds of pathways that the current patches, and there's more to come, I just kept looking at the pathways. I know the brain runs everything. Look at the pathways, And then this is how I talk about it, because people are always saying, well, how do I talk to people? How do I share? Just listen to them. Listen to them talk about what's bothering them, what's not working. And, if they're talking about pain or, they just can't quit doing this or grief, you know, whatever it is, if you listen, you can start to look at, oh, that's this pathway. You know, for me, the patch is one that I use, and I had no clue. And it's like, I should have known this. It's like, why is that helping me so much? And then I got really honest, and it's like, well, I attempted suicide twice. I dealt with depression for years, but I'm very disciplined. So I was doing all the supplements, and I don't let my brain go certain places. But I realized that I wasn't technically dealing with depression, but I was dealing with a lack of joy.
There's a song for that.
And when I was talking to Glenda last week, she said, that's probably a really important one for you. And I said, yeah, I know. And that surprised me. Because sometimes we aren't honest with ourselves on things that bother us. So I just want to encourage you to really get that your brain runs everything. And if we can get pathways moving into balance, what all could change? To me, it's
Well,
exciting.
One of the interesting things in neuro, they kept telling us that, and then my Christian friends go, "No, God runs runs my body." And I said, "Well, actually, God created your brain to do what your brain does. So just realize God created this to be a healthy, functioning thing that runs you. So we still have to work with the gifts and what He's given us. Okay."
And in God's word, it says if you're double-minded, you're unstable in everything. So your logic can think this, but if your brainstem cerebellum thinks it's not safe or it can't do something, this wins. And willpower and even knowing what God says, knowing what God can do, gets set aside because the God-given purpose of this part of your brain is to keep you alive and safe. And so if a pathway is off, it limits how much you can receive what God has for you to live out your purpose. And so as we go through this, I didn't do any of it tonight, but certainly an easy and hopefully here, you know, as you're doing this and you're getting better and better, it's so you can live your purpose, so you can live your true identity and bring transformation to people in your unique style. And if we create that, I will consider that my next 10, 20, however many years will have been well spent. That's very different than just sitting there testing one-on-one clients. I don't want to do that anymore. I have a desire to see people set free so they can live their purpose.
So that has to come through a community. And it has to, you know, one of the things I got listening to Charlie Kirk stuff is that he always was telling his team bigger and better and more. He had a vision for what he was going to create when he was 14 years old. And as I look at the stories we're hearing on this call tonight, I told Shelley, I said, you know, this patch doesn't seem to compare too much to Charlie Kirk. And she said, no, we're using all that we have at Lifestyle for Health for the last 40 years to touch people's lives, to give people the ability to go out and make a difference in their community. So as I look at our little community right here on the call, we really need to be expanding this and helping people, you know, do what they need to do. You need to wrap up because there's somebody at the door.
Yep. That's what I'm pretty passionate about. The patch is a tool. A patch is not your savior, but it's a tool. And I think those of you who are having positive experiences, that's kind of cool. That just means you have more freedom to be the whole person God created you to be. So any questions or comments? Otherwise, I'm going to pray for
I have a
you.
quick one, Cheryl. Is I put the link to the Facebook group that you're talking about in the chat, so you can just click on
That
it.
would be great.
It's over there now. And then,
Okay.
and the other thing, this is me and my brain. Last night on Easy Force was saying everything doesn't work the same way for everybody, so you just have to be on a. And I've always been doing that, and I'm ready to do some cellular detox products, and I go, should I just stop on that? Because I'm hearing like we got to get the pathways cleared up before anything will work better anyway. So comment on that.
Well, the thing that I learned in neurology after all the credentials I have, which are a lot, and a good friend of ours who's a chiropractor, when she went through the fundamental class, and Forrest and I have gone on to more, and Forrest has done 5 certifications. Our friend who's the chiropractor said, I should get my money back. They didn't teach us any of this. And I looked at it and it was like, no wonder I had people I couldn't get better because I didn't understand how this ran everything, everything. So, see, the patches made no sense to me until Dr. Anna said, with brain testing, a patch puts a specific pathway into balance. And when you get a brain pathway into balance, everything related to that pathway is impacted. Does that make sense, Ron, or am I missing the heart of your question?
No, that makes a lot of sense. I make the mistake of trying too many things all at the same time, so I'm backing off on my other pioneer things, and I'm going to really press into the patches and see what happens.
And the other thing I'm seeing, which actually excites me, doesn't always excite Forrest, but it does me. The people who I've been working with patches for a month or more are reducing their supplements.
Amen.
I think that the foundation for your vitamin D, not from lanolin, your minerals with fulvic acid and carbon technology, the glutathione and so forth in the Primaskin and binder. Those four, you can see that on our website. Those four are pretty important. Testing for nitric oxide. But I'm seeing so many, and your essential fatty acids are important. So there's like a few things that are important. But I know for myself and other people who are taking a whole lot of supplements and still struggling with some of the same issues. And I think I'm beginning to think more and more seriously, it's a pathway that's out of balance. And it's just, that's why your feedback matters, because I'm so good at patterns, but I need the data. I need data. So that's why I listen to pretty much everything. I haven't gotten through everything, but as much as possible, what Dr. Anna teaches and what she finds with surgery and colon issues and the microbiome. And so I'm learning all of that, but you guys are real people in real life situations. So your feedback goes into all that data so that I can synthesize it, see the patterns, and then say, okay, if you're dealing with this, you might notice this.
Or you can just do what Ron did, put a different one on and see what happens.
Cheryl, wouldn't you think that these pathways, unless you take it off and put on another one, it seems like the neural pathways would say it wants to be in that balance. So I'm wondering if you use it long enough, like you're saying, we'll find out if the body would just kind of naturally, if everything else,
That's the caveat, because a lot of our community are already eating fairly well. They're
right.
already mostly moving and exercising. They're doing some basic supplements. So they're doing, and they know the cranial nerve resets. So our community is not like the world at large. Because one of the things Jay said is the average person doesn't want to change their lifestyle. So the patch gives them relief without having to do any change. My desire is, I know that works, but how much more is available when you look at your lifestyle? That was the name God gave us 40 years ago. It's your lifestyle, putting the pieces together.
But the reality is, a different version of Dorothea can just put on the patch and become a happier person and not make any changes. And that actually makes people's lives better.
So, because we're way over what we normally do, but I want to pray for all of you. And just know that these calls go on our YouTube site, Cheryl Townsley TV.
Hold on.
They also go to cheryltownsley.info, and they also go to our Lifestyle for Health private Facebook group page. So there's several places that you can go back and find them, share them if you want to. It's meant to be educational, no claims, just educational.
Raisha, did we get your questions answered okay?
Well, I understand like where to place them, not on scar tissue and things like that. I just didn't know what the skin tack, the 3M Cavalon, and some of that Tagaderm was mentioned for. So
That's just if people have a problem with reactions to the adhesive of the patches.
Okay.
Then those are some things you can do. But usually, if somebody has a reaction, it's because they've been just pulling them off and they damage the skin. So the
Okay.
best way to remove patches, I think, is in the shower with soap and water, because that just loosens them and then they come off very, very easily.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Or when you're sitting at night, the dog will actually lick them and take them off for you.
Okay.
Okay, we gotta go.
Father God, I just thank you that you made us amazing creations. Amazing creations. Father, I thank you for all the things that you have brought into our life over the last 40 years to help people, to help our health. I thank you, Lord, that in the hospital when they took me after this suicide attempt, that my life didn't end there. You had a purpose. And even though I didn't understand it then, I felt like such a failure. Father, I thank you for all that you have brought me through. All that you have brought me through. And I know that if you've done it for me, you'll do it for others. And that, Father, I thank you that you're bringing us new skills, new revelations, so that not only can our health improve, but we can help others. Others who might be in that situation, feeling like a failure and that nothing works for them. So I thank you for encouraging us, helping us to learn how to steward this body, your temple. And Father, I ask that in the process, that you show each and every person who you've called them to be in this season, how you've called them to bring transformation in their unique style to other people, that we can go out and have a ripple impact of helping people to become whole people the way you created them. Father, it's an honor. It's an honor to be able to impact people's lives. And I ask that you'd continue to teach us how to do it your way. I ask that you'd correct us when we get off course. I ask that you would soften us if we're harsh on people or we just try to tell them to do it. Father, I ask that you would teach us how to invite like Jesus did. He just said, what would you like? He already knew the problem. He already knew what he could do. He just said, what do you want? Lord, help us to be that simple in how we talk to people. What do you want? Father, I just thank you for what we're learning and discovering, and I just ask that you would help all of us. I just want to learn faster and learn it better so that we can make a difference. And Father, we just praise you and thank you for who you are, for your faithfulness, that you never leave us and you never forsake us. And we just give you all the praise, the glory, and honor in Jesus' name. And everybody said, amen, amen, amen.
And then a bunch of them said, Pat John and stay calm.